There is a country the world has tried to explain, and failed. A place where towers of mud rise taller than memory, where stone is not a material, it's a language, where time does not march forward. It circles, it returns, it kneels. This is Yemen, not the Yemen of headlines, not the Yemen of satellites and sirens. This is the Yemen no one warned you about, the one that has been whispering for 3,000 years, waiting for someone to listen. Here the earth remembers what men forget. Walls hold the temperature of centuries, alleyways carry the scent of incense roots that went silent 1,000 years ago. And in the mountains, villages cling to cliffs the way faith clings to the desperate. Children grow up learning the names of stones before the names of countries. Old women sing to the moon in a dialect no outsider has ever recorded. Somewhere, in a market unchanged for 800 years, the smell of dried roses and camel milk soap drifts through corridors of shadow and gold. We did not come here to explain Yemen. Explanations belong to the news. We came to feel it, to walk through its corridors of shadow and heat, and to understand that some places are not destinations. They are conversations, ancient ones, still unfinished, still waiting for the right kind of silence. They call it the Manhattan of the desert. But Manhattan was built to impress. Shibam was built to endure. 500 years ago, before concrete, before steel, someone looked at this valley of sand and wind and said, "We will rise. Not with glass, not with iron, with mud, with water, with straw and the memory of hands." And what they built has no right to still be standing. 8 stories of sun-dried brick, each tower a prayer pressed into earth. The walls are thick, not out of extravagance, but intelligence. They breathe, cool when the sun is merciless, warm when the desert night drops like a stone. Small windows cut into the facade, barely wider than a hand. They are not a flaw, they are a decision. They filter sand, they ration light, they turn each room into a chamber of shade, perfectly calibrated for a climate that forgives nothing. Around the towers, a thick wall holds the city together. It was built against floods, against invaders, against the slow erosion of everything. And it worked. Century after century, the wall held, the towers stood, the people stayed. This was no accident of geography. Shibam sat on the ancient incense route, the artery through which frankincense, myrrh and spices flowed across Arabia. Caravans stopped here, merchants rested here, wealth accumulated, not in banks, but in walls. Each tower a family's fortune, stacked vertically against the sky. Walk the alleys, and you understand something important. This city was never about spectacle. It was about survival, dressed in beauty. Neighbors built bridges between their top floors, not for show, but so they could pass bread to each other without stepping outside. So mothers could speak to daughters across the gap of stone and air. Every generation inherits these towers, and every generation repairs them. The same way, with the same hands, using the same earth. There is no museum here, no velvet rope. This is a living architecture. The buildings are not preserved. They are maintained, the way a body is maintained, the way a language is maintained, through use, through repetition, through devotion. Shibam does not ask to be admired. It does not perform. It simply remains, an empire of clay standing in a valley of sand, 8 stories tall, 5 centuries deep. A city that kneels before nothing, not time, not war, not the indifference of a world that forgot it was here. And in its stillness, in its stubborn, quiet endurance, it says something no skyscraper of glass has ever managed to say. We were here before you. We will be here after. The dust settles, the light fades, but the clay holds. It always holds. And somewhere inside those walls, a conversation continues, one that started long before us. High above the Hadramaut plateau, the earth folds inward, like a page turning in a book no one finished writing. The land here is dry, golden, patient. It has been waiting longer than any empire. And there, clinging to the bones of the cliffs, stacked against gravity and reason, are villages that have watched centuries pass without flinching. Al-Hajarain does not welcome you. It does not wave. It clings to the cliff as if grown from it, not built, not designed, but exhaled by the rock in some ancient geological sigh. The houses are stacked like forgotten scriptures, their faces turned toward a sun that offers nothing but heat and honesty. There are no rivers here, no meadows, no green relief for the eye. Only stone, layered, fractured, sun-bleached stone. And the people who decided centuries ago that this was enough. That a cliff face was not an obstacle but an invitation. That height was not a luxury but a necessity for defense, for vision, for closeness to something the flatlands could never provide. Farther along the plateau, Wadi al-Azil appears like something half-remembered from a dream. A village suspended between breath and gravity. Its stone homes perch on ledges carved not by hands, but by time. A slow, patient sculptor who works in millennia, not months. From below, the village seems impossible. From above, it seems inevitable. As if the mountain had always intended to hold people here, had been shaping these shelves for exactly this purpose. Children play in the shade of granite. Goats walk paths so narrow they seem stitched into the sky. And somewhere, behind a wall of stone no thicker than a man's arm, a family eats in silence. The same silence their grandparents ate in and their grandparents before them. Both villages speak the same language, the language of adaptation. Walls are thick, not from wealth, but from wisdom. They trap the cool air inside and hold it there like a secret. Rooms are narrow and dim, not out of poverty, but out of purpose. Every shadow is engineered, every breeze is earned. Flat roofs double as pantries, as sleeping quarters, as open-air temples, where families gather when the stars are low enough to touch. Nothing is wasted here. Space is too sacred for waste. To reach these villages is to leave the present behind. The road, if you can call it that, coils like scripture along the mountain's edge. There is no noise here, only the hush of dust, the echo of wind brushing against stone. The soft footfall of a traveler who has arrived late to a conversation that began before language itself was born. And the villages do not explain themselves. They do not need to. The stone speaks. The silence speaks. the height speaks loudest of all. Leave the cliffs behind, climb higher, past the plateau, past the dust, past everything the desert claims as its own. And you arrive at a place the desert cannot reach. Jabal Sabir, one of the highest peaks in Yemen. Over 3,000 meters at its summit, a place where clouds do not float above you. They sit beside you, close enough to touch, heavy with rain the lowlands will never see. But altitude is not what makes this mountain sacred. It is what lives upon it, what has been coaxed from its soil by 2,000 years of hands and patience. Terrace farms, carved into the slopes long before anyone thought to write the word agriculture, cover the hills like green staircases descending into the clouds. They are still in use today. Coffee grows here, barley, cot. Each terrace a shelf of engineered earth, held in place by stone walls that have not moved in centuries. Water, the rarest currency in Yemen, is channeled through aqueducts dug by hand and stored in stone tanks older than most nations. The system is simple. Gravity does the work, but the design is profound. A civilization's answer to the question of how to feed a people on the side of a mountain where rain is a guest, not a resident. And then there is the leopard, the Arabian leopard, smaller than its African cousin, lighter in color, pale yellow with dark rosettes scattered across its coat, like the handwriting of something ancient and deliberate. It is one of the most endangered big cats on Earth. In Yemen, perhaps a handful survive. No one knows the exact number. No one may ever know. But rarity has made it sacred. In local folklore, the leopard is the protector of the mountain, an invisible sentinel that watches over the land and its people. Sightings are not common. They are not meant to be. Elders speak of those who have crossed the leopard's path as spiritually chosen, marked by something older than religion. Conservation efforts are minimal. The country's conflict has stolen the resources that might save this animal, but the reverence persists. In a place where war has taken almost everything, the mountain people still refuse to harm what they believe guards them. And perhaps that reverence, that stubborn, irrational devotion to a ghost in golden fur, is the leopard's last and best hope. In a country defined so often by what it has lost, Jabal Sabir quietly exists like a world apart, a place where history, nature, and spirit have not yet been separated, where the mountain still feeds its people, where the leopard still watches, where the old contract between land and life has not yet been broken. Southwest from Jabal Sabir, the mountains tighten, the valleys narrow. The road, if it ever was one, becomes a suggestion scratched into rock, and then, pressed against a cliff face, like a word, whispered into stone, Al-Hajara appears. This village was not built on the mountain. It was built into it. The stone homes follow the slope the way water follows gravity, without hesitation, without argument. Every wall is cut from local rock, stacked with the kind of care that suggests the builders understood something essential, that a house is not separate from its mountain. It is a continuation of it. Each home follows the same ancient logic. The bottom floor shelters livestock, goats and cattle whose body heat rises through the structure, warming the floors above. The middle floor stores what the family needs to survive: grain, tools, preserved food. And the top floor, open to light and mountain air, is where life happens, where families gather, where tea is poured, where stories are told in voices low enough to honor the silence outside. It is vertical living, not by fashion, but by necessity. And in that necessity, an elegance emerged that no architect could have planned. The narrow alleys weave through Al-Hajara like the passages of a labyrinth. Staircases connect homes to rooftops, and rooftops become patios, meeting halls, open-air kitchens. From a distance, the village vanishes. The houses blend so completely into the cliff that distinguishing what is built from what is born becomes a test of faith. Just east of Al-Hajara lies Taiz, one of Yemen's most vital cities, dense, loud, alive with the hum of markets, mosques and schools. And above it all, watching with the patience of something that has seen every war and every peace, Al-Kahira Citadel. Built centuries ago on a hill that commands the entire valley, this fortress was once the military and administrative heart of southern Yemen. Its stone walls are thick enough to stop cannon fire. Its watchtowers face every direction. Its arched gates were designed not for beauty but for survival, narrow enough that only one man could pass at a time. From its height, the strategic advantage is immediate. The entire city unfolds below. Every road, every rooftop, every approach. For centuries, whoever held this citadel held Taiz. Inside its walls were armories, grain stores, living quarters for soldiers and commanders, and rooms where the business of governance was conducted in the cool shade of stone vaults. But Taiz is more than its fortress. The city below is a city of layers. Winding streets that follow the contour of hills, markets that spill out of doorways, mosques whose minarets compete with the citadel for the skyline. The people of Taiz are known for their learning, their activism, their stubborn belief that ideas matter as much as walls. For generations, this city has been the intellectual and political conscience of Yemen. A place where poets and politicians share the same coffee houses. Walk through the citadel at dusk and you feel it. The weight of every century pressed into the stone beneath your feet. The view from the top is not merely beautiful, it is instructive. Rooftops stretch across the valley in every direction, and behind them, mountains hold the horizon in place, like the margins of a page. The fortress is not a relic. It is part of the city's identity, its spine, its memory, its proof that endurance is not passive. It is an act of will, built in stone and practiced every single day. Far from the chaos of the present, buried in the silence of the desert, a city waits. Marib, once the glorious capital of the Sabaean kingdom, a civilization that thrived nearly 3,000 years ago. This is the land of the Queen of Sheba. According to ancient texts and oral traditions passed from mouth to mouth for 100 generations, she ruled from here, over a people known for wealth, diplomacy, and devotion to the sun god. But the kingdom's greatest achievement was not its queen. It was its dam. The Great Dam of Marib, built in the first millennium before the Common Era, stretched nearly 600 meters long and rose over 15 meters high. It was not merely a wall against water. It was a declaration, a civilization's refusal to be at the mercy of the sky. Monsoon rains were redirected into a sophisticated irrigation network that fed thousands of people in the middle of a desert. For centuries, it worked. The water flowed, the crops grew, the kingdom endured. Then, it collapsed. The loss was not just structural, it was existential. The decline of the dam marked the decline of the kingdom. Islamic texts reference it as a turning point in Arabian history, the moment a great civilization began its long, slow exhale. Yet the spirit of Sheba persists. In temple remains. In inscriptions no rain has managed to erase. In a name that still carries weight 3,000 years after the woman who bore it walked these stones. Heading west, the desert surrenders to something unexpected. Jabal Bura, a densely forested mountain range that exists like a green rumor in a country the world assumes is only sand and stone. Here, rainfall arrives just often enough to sustain an ecosystem that feels misplaced. Ferns, tall trees, moss-covered rocks, and air thick with the scent of wet earth. And in this forest live the monks. That is what the locals call them, the Hamadriyas baboons. Silver-coated, sharp-eyed, organized into societies so structured that anthropologists have compared them to our own. They are more than animals here. They are the spirit guardians of the forest, messengers of the mountain gods. To harm one is to invite ruin. Some elders tell of entire harvests failing after someone disrespected the baboons. And so a covenant has formed. Villagers leave offerings at the tree line. Children learn to observe from a distance, to respect the space of creatures they believe protect the land. It is not science. It is not superstition. It is something older than both, a contract between species, written in fruit and silence, honored without paper or law. At the heart of Yemen stands Sana'a, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. More than 2,500 years of life compressed into narrow streets and towering homes decorated with white gypsum tracery, so intricate that visitors have called the city gingerbread, a word far too sweet for a place this enduring. According to legend, Sana'a was founded by Shem, son of Noah. Whether myth or memory, the city feels that old. Thick walls insulate against the heat. Upper floors open to cool mountain air through tall windows that frame the sky like paintings. The old city, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, though currently listed as endangered, breathes with the rhythm of people who have never stopped living here. Not for tourism, not for preservation, for life. Not far from the city, rising from a single column of rock like a prayer made physical, Dar al-Hajar stands, the Rock Palace. Built in the 1930s by Imam Yahya as a summer residence, it is one of the most photographed structures in Yemen. Not because it is grand, but because it is impossible. 5 stories of stone and plaster balanced on a natural pillar, with a well more than 60 meters deep at its base. Inside, the rooms are simple. Arched doorways, carved wooden screens, geometric patterns pressed into plaster. Each space is functional, modest, intimate, like the imam who built it, a ruler known for restraint in a region that has rarely rewarded it. Today, Dar al-Hajar serves as a museum, but for many Yemenis, it is more than that. It is proof that power does not require excess, that a palace can be humble, that stone and sky, arranged with care, can hold more meaning than marble ever could. And now, the strangest chapter, an island so unlike anything else on Earth that scientists call it the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, Socotra. On the Diksam Plateau, trees stand like sentinels from another epoch. The dragon blood tree, thick-trunked, umbrella-crowned, ancient, is not beautiful in the way flowers are beautiful. It is beautiful the way mathematics is beautiful, symmetrical, inevitable. Its red sap, known for millennia as dragon's blood, has been used as medicine, dye, incense, and ritual offering. Locals believe it holds healing power. Legends say the trees mark the places where dragons once bled after battles with elephants. Others claim they communicate with the stars. Whether myth or ecology, these trees are the island's soul. They grow slowly, they live for centuries, and they are disappearing. Not dramatically, but quietly, the way all irreplaceable things disappear. One dry season at a time, one goat too many, 1 degree of warming no one bothered to measure. Above the plateau, the Hajir Mountains rise, the source of every freshwater spring on the island. Clouds gather here, feed underground aquifers, and release waterfalls that carve lush corridors through otherwise arid terrain. For the people of Socotra, these mountains are sacred. Many believe spirits dwell in the peaks, guardians who protect the island, who appear only in mist, who speak only in the sound of falling water. Below, the coastline offers its own impossibilities. At Arar Beach, fresh water meets the sea, creating a brackish zone where species that should never coexist do so in quiet defiance of biology. Green sea turtles return here each summer to nest on the same sand where they themselves were born. And farther along the coast, at Sharp Beach, spinner dolphins greet the dawn, leaping, twisting, dancing in the shallows as if performing a benediction no one asked for, but everyone needs. Socotra does not belong to the world we have built. It belongs to the world that was here before us, and that will, in all likelihood, outlast us. It is not exotic, it is original. The rest of us are the variations. And so the circle closes, not with an ending, but with a return. We came to Yemen looking for something the headlines could not give us. We found it, not in monuments, but in mud, not in speeches, but in stone. Not in the noise of the present, but in the long, patient silence of a place that has been holding its breath for 3,000 years. This is not a country that asks to be saved. It is a country that asks to be seen. Every mountain here holds a story older than memory. Every tower of clay is a sentence in a language we are only beginning to read. Every leopard in the mist, every baboon at the forest's edge, every turtle returning to the sand where it was born. They are all part of the same conversation, the one that started before language, before borders, before the first headline was ever written. Yemen does not run forward. It never has. Time here moves the way prayer beads move through the hands of the wind, in circles, returning, repeating, refusing to let go of what matters. And in that turning, in that stubborn, ancient refusal to move in a straight line, Yemen tells us something we have forgotten. That endurance is not stillness. That beauty does not require an audience. That some places do not exist for us. They exist despite us. And they will continue, long after we have looked away, to press their hands into the clay, to climb their cliffs, to sing to the moon in a language no outsider understands. This is Yemen, not the Yemen of breaking news, the Yemen of the living memory, the empire of clay that kneels before nothing, and has never, not once, stopped speaking.